So on Wednesday of last week, for the seniors, I had previewed or had actually advanced some of the um, lesson activities that we were doing for today, and that would have been the organization of the federal courts web quest that we were going to do for this week. State Court Triangle, I put it as due today, but that was the Wednesday's activity. So the additional activity that we're doing for Monday is we're continuing on our quest here of looking at the judicial branch. We went back, we looked at the state court, we looked at the levels of the state court, and we need to look at the organization. We've looked at the organization of the federal court, and that check on the web quest is what you're doing. So again, reminders on those, and these are the last two senior assignments. If you're a senior paying attention to this, state court triangle, that's due today. This was from Wednesday. You are looking at the state courts and looking at these two links for the state courts, and it explains it in the 513 agenda. That's why I put it there on how to complete this state court triangle. I'm not going to really repeat it here. It's on the 513 agenda. I give you some hints and some notes on that agenda because that's quite a longer agenda on how to complete that. And looking at that, there's actually a court of claims is a part of the appellate, the Court of Appeals in the state of Michigan, the Court of Claims that's on here. Court of Claims doesn't come up very much in the state of Michigan. It's when it's a special court that's designed for when people are suing the state of Michigan. Well, it's come up in this COVID stuff in this COVID activity because of the conflict between Gretchen and the state legislature over her emergency powers. So the legislature sued her and then ended up in the Court of Claims saying that she doesn't have the right to extend the stay-at-home order until the 28th of May because she didn't get proper permission from the legislature, the Republican legislature. That ended up in the Court of Claims. Court of Claims has a rotation of judges from the Court of Appeals. The Court of Claims judge, when she heard the oral arguments last week, said, hey, I think it was Friday she heard them. She said, hey, this is going to end up in the Michigan Supreme Court. So it was an interesting case. I wish I should post the article, and I might do that sometime on Monday. And then the other, the Organization of Federal Courts web quest, we've done these. We did this once before in class, and basically you're tracking how you did. And again, I explained that on the agenda there. The new Monday activity, this technically was part of Monday as well, is a brief pair deck. And I say brief on what's near and dear to my heart, the Supreme Court. This is my favorite thing to teach in both government and law is teaching about the Supreme Court. This pair deck's a little more straightforward than some of the other ones I've given you, but it goes into quite a bit of detail about the nuts and bolts of the Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm talking about the U.S. Supreme Court. In fact, I should put that on there, U.S. Supreme Court pair deck, and how the U.S. Supreme Court operates and how they are a court that hears cases only when there's a conflict in federal law, when there's a conflict between the states, when there's a conflict, when there's a constitutional question at play, or usually it's a constitutional question, and their judicial review when they hear the cases regarding judicial review. And I should put U.S. Supreme Court pair deck here, and not just U.S. Supreme Court pair deck, and not just Supreme Court, because I would confuse it with Michigan Supreme Court. And this is underclassmen only. This is from here on. The classes for the freshman and one junior that we have here. And then those of you who have me in World know this, but all missing incomplete assignments. And that's not including assignments that would be due like in first week in June from next week, because next week's our last week. Next week's our last week, the week after Memorial Day. We're talking about assignments that are like here, that are missing, and then assignments that are, would be missing here once I get them graded. Those are due by Friday, 5/29 toward the 80% threshold that's set by the district. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about missing assignments. So again, U.S. Supreme Court pair deck is it's due on Thursday, and the State Court Triangle due today. Organization of Federal Courts, again, this was the Monday. This was the Monday. This was technically from Wednesday. If we're looking at it, I got a little bit ahead for the seniors. but this is the actual Monday. I should probably have in that order, but I don't. So as we move along, this is what we're looking into. We're going to continue with the judicial branch on Wednesday, looking at different aspects. Probably starting getting, hopefully, maybe getting into trial procedures, and that would be our goal.